This is a story of a little girl searching, searching, searching. You made me love you.
On June 22nd, 1969, the death of one of Hollywood's most beloved stars came as sad news to America and the world. Judy Garland was only 47 years old when she was discovered dead of a drug overdose in a London apartment. Whatever happened to that wide-eyed, innocent girl, so filled with hope and joy and boundless enthusiasm?
Well, I've hung on to every bit of rubbish there is to hang on to in life. And I've thrown all the good bits away.
On this episode of Mysteries and Scandals, we'll explore how and why one of the brightest stars and most beloved singers, Judy Garland, self-destructed.
You've deserted me. I said, Judy, please, never. Everybody deserts me. Everybody.
Everybody was out to use her. Everybody was out to get something from her.
She kept running away, running away, running away.
Sadly, Judy learned you can run, but you can't hide. I'm A.J. Benza. Join me as we examine the agonizing life of an American tragedy, Judy Garland. On June 27, 1969, the day of Judy Garland's funeral, the Upper East Side of Manhattan was shut down when thousands of mourners turned out to pay a final tribute. Judy had come a long way from her childhood in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Judy Garland was born Frances Gumm on June 10, 1922. Her father, Frank, owned a local theater where her mother, Ethel, played the piano. Judy was the youngest of three girls, which earned her the nickname Baby Gumm. Marcella Rabwin was a lifelong friend.
She was a joy. Everybody loved her, and by the time she was 2 years old, she was up on the stage with the two girls who would dance and sing.
But the home life of Frank and Ethel Gumm wasn't happy.
Frank was obviously bisexual, and he became enamored of a young boy and made love to him, of course. And there was nothing to do to save their face except to move, to get out of there.
The Gumm family moved to Los Angeles, where Mother Ethel immediately began shopping Baby Gumm at the studios.
Everybody went crazy over that little girl.
But the name Frances Gumm was a tough sell, so Baby Gumm became Judy Garland. Biographer Gerald Clark.
Finally, she went to MGM, and she was signed in September 1935. And the tragedy for her was that her father died about 6 weeks later, so he didn't see her become a star.
Frank Gumm died of spinal meningitis at the age of 49. Judy was only 13 at the time. John Carlyle was a close friend of Judy's.
I think she adored her father. I don't think she ever got over it.
Judy bravely stifled her grief and carried on, but the early years at MGM were difficult ones for the shy and insecure young girl from Minnesota.
Judy was the ugly duckling. Louis B. Mayer said, oh, there's my little hunchback, because Judy had a way of hunching her shoulders. This was devastating for Judy. MGM thought of Judy as the girl next door, the girl who doesn't get the boy. And that's the role she played in several of the Andy Hardy movies. She became Mickey Rooney's sidekick. She had a crush on Mickey Rooney, and everybody knew this.
Judy Garland and I were just meant, from the word go, to be a part of each other's life. We couldn't have been closer had we been born from the same womb.
Mickey and Judy made 10 films together, including the popular Andy Hardy series of the 1930s. Those movies showcased Judy's acting talents as well as her fantastic singing voice. So 16-year-old Judy was the logical choice for the role of a lifetime, Dorothy, in the 1939 MGM classic The Wizard of Oz. Jerry Marin, who played one of the Munchkins, remembers the first day of filming.
Well, we started November 11th, 1938. We met Judy Garland. We got a big kick out of her, and she got a bigger kick out of us, you know, because don't forget, when you get up in the morning and take a look and see 125 midgets, say, what the hell is going on here, you know?
It was during the filming of The Wizard of Oz that Judy began a lifelong battle. Donna Mason was a choreographer at MGM.
She was worried about her weight, and so was the studio, and they used to press her down with like a corset because she was supposed to be 12.
Louis B. Mayer himself told her she had to go on a diet, and he gave orders.
So the folks at MGM came up with a terrific idea intended to solve her weight problem and boost her energy level. Get Judy hopped up on diet pills.
In 1939, during the making of The Wizard of Oz, Judy's great tragedy happened. They gave her her first dose of Benzedrine.
One of the ways you lose weight is by taking Benzedrine, speed, something to speed up the metabolism.
Ethel said to me, you know, Metro has really upset this girl. She can't eat and she can't sleep, and she's on this Benzedrine stuff, and then at night she takes Seconal to go to sleep.
But Judy did as she was told, and by the age of 16, she was well on her way to becoming drug dependent. Was it Judy's innocence and vulnerability that allowed Hollywood to exploit this talented young star, or did Judy's own demons drive her to the brink of insanity and death again and again? Just ahead, how did America's most revered teenage actress find herself cast among Hollywood's walking wounded? Judy Garland was 16 when she starred in one of the most beloved films of all time, The Wizard of Oz. Ironically, Dorothy's whirlwind trip to Oz and Judy's tumultuous life in Hollywood was similar in more ways than one. Little Judy Garland was lost, frightened, and alone in a place that made a few flying monkeys look like a day at the petting zoo. Unfortunately, Judy's only escape was through alcohol and drugs. As Judy's popularity grew, MGM began preparing her for more starring roles, while choosing to ignore her ever-growing dependency on drugs. In the early 1940s, Eugene Alfred Pagano became Judy's hairdresser.
I used to say, Judy, why don't you stop taking all of these pills? She said, well, I can't go to sleep at night. And she was not conscious of who the sweet Judy Garland was.
In addition to the pills, Judy was irritated about having to play teenagers. Judy's frustration only added to her emotional problems and her conflicts with the studio.
Judy almost missed one of her best roles, which was Meet Me in St. Louis. This was 1943 when it was being made. And by this time, she was 21 years old. Vincent Minnelli was the director. They couldn't get along.
I feel like the ossified woman in the slideshow.
It seems Vincent Minnelli had an odd preoccupation which annoyed Judy.
He'd always be putting on his lipstick and his eyeshadow.
He made Judy look absolutely gorgeous. It was the first time she had really looked beautiful in a movie.
She fell in love with Vincent Minnelli. He was an out-and-out pronounced gay. He had never been out with a woman that I knew of.
I never pictured him married. I don't think anybody would picture him married. I don't think even Judy pictured him married.
And I think he just wanted to be married to somebody. And he picked her. And they did have a baby, which was, you know, sort of a minor miracle. And they had a wonderful baby. Liza was absolutely a dream.
That dream baby, of course, grew up to be the Oscar-winning actress Liza Minnelli. After Liza's birth, the pressures of a difficult marriage, motherhood, and fame sent Judy to the brink.
Her first real breakdown came in about 1947, which was the time of the pirates. And she became paranoid. She would, in fact, hallucinate. She would go onto the set, and there was one point they had a bonfire. It was part of the movie. She ran around saying, they're trying to burn me alive, they're trying to kill me.
So she had lots of doctors, and each doctor didn't know what the other doctor was doing. So she had anything she wanted, at any time she wanted.
Then she was going to do Annie, Get Your Gun, and she fell apart. She couldn't really go on. She was exhausted, so they took her off the picture.
Marcella Rabwin is the widow of Dr. Mark Rabwin, Judy's family physician.
Mark went to see L.B. Mayer. He said, Mr. Mayer, I just want you to know, I think Judy's going to die if you keep her here under contract. So he said, get her well. That's all he said. Next year, the studio fired her.
It was the spring of 1950, and Judy, now 28 years old, was devastated by her dismissal. MGM had been her home for 15 years. She made more than 25 films for the studio, bringing in well over $100 million, which was very, very big bucks for the time. But studio executives are notorious for their overwhelming loyalty. Judy had become an embarrassment and a nuisance. It was time to cut her loose. Depressed, drug addicted, and out of work, was there any hope for a comeback? Or was Judy headed straight into a yellow brick wall?
So always look for the silver lining.
Christmas came early this year with Judy Garland.
Judy and James and George Cukor and everybody else in this picture are going to take all of the Academy Awards that they have.
Judy Garland was without question one of the greatest stars Hollywood ever created. But Judy's talent and star power was sabotaged by her unbridled drug abuse. I'm A.J. Benza for Mysteries and Scandals. It was Judy's erratic and volatile behavior that finally got her fired from MGM in 1950, the place she called home for 15 years. That same year, 28-year-old Judy's marriage to Vincent Minnelli disintegrated. They divorced but remained close friends. Minnelli was with Judy the night she finally snapped.
She broke a glass, apparently, and took it against her throat. And somehow the newspapers, the columnists found out about it, and there were headlines all over the world.
Judy did spend time in a sanitarium, and upon her release went to New York for some rest. It was there in the summer of 1950 that she met and fell in love with producer Sid Luft, who would become her third husband. Sid encouraged her to return to the concert stage. Judy hadn't performed before a live audience in more than 15 years. Actor Jack Klugman fondly remembers Judy's energy on the stage.
Every performance was 150%. You didn't know how she could survive. Belting and caring, and if the audience gave her any kind of love, she went all out.
She made every person in the audience feel as though they were sitting in her living room. And when she sat down on the apron to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, there's never been anything like it, ever.
Judy's 1951 world tour was a phenomenal success. In 1952, just 2 days before Judy's 30th birthday, she married her producer, Sid Luft. A year later, daughter Lorna was born. Former president of Capitol Records, Alan Livingston.
Sid, in his own way, managed to keep her going and keep her away from the things that she shouldn't have, whether it was alcohol or drugs or whatever. And he made a career of it.
Comedian Alan King often opened for Judy.
Sidney was great for her. As difficult as the marriage was, he knew how to get Judy to work.
Suddenly she was hot again, and Warner Brothers took her up for the movie A Star is Born. And that was to be her great comeback movie.
The critics raved at early screenings, but because the movie ran over 3 hours, theater owners complained. So Warner Brothers recut the film a week before its release. What remained was a mangled piece of work. A Star is Born died at the box office. The 32-year-old Judy, however, was still considered a shoo-in for the 1955 Academy Award. On Oscar night, Judy was in a hospital having just given birth to her third child, Joey.
What they did is they had a crane and a platform outside the hospital window. And that when they announced, and the winner is Judy Garland, they just shoot to the outside of the hospital. And I remember vividly, brought the envelope, and the winner is Grace Kelly for Country Girl. And America, everybody in America went, oh, because everybody I know was rooting for Judy.
Within 10 seconds, just like that, the cameramen had gone, the microphones had gone, and she was left all by herself. In fact, the cameraman seemed kind of annoyed that she had lost.
After the failure of A Star is Born, Judy was depressed and she was taking more pills than ever. This, of course, was a recipe for disaster.
I went into the kitchen. There wasn't even a can of Campbell's soup. There was nothing. Now, that's how bad she was, that she couldn't even know that her children needed something to put in their tummies. She was unaware. The drugs would just wipe her out.
She was a total contradiction. She was the most loving mother. She worshipped those kids. This is a woman that was capable of, as I said, highs and lows, and, not cruel, but outrageous behavior.
Clearly, family life was difficult, and Sid was spending more and more time away trying to resuscitate Judy's career.
He was just trying too hard and being less of a husband, I guess, more of an agent.
In 1960, Judy and Sid legally separated, but Sid continued to find bookings for his estranged wife. Judy needed to work. She had squandered her fortune and was now being harassed by the IRS for back taxes. By the end of 1965, 43-year-old Judy had been through 4 husbands. She was broke, exhausted, and completely drug dependent. Judy again became suicidal. Dr. Mark Rabwin was often called to the rescue.
Usually it was Liza would call and say, "Mark, come quick, Mommy's done it again." And she'd have her wrist all sewed up, or she'd have her throat sewed up. And she just did this habitually.
It's estimated that Judy attempted suicide more than 30 times. Was there any hope left after so many years of torment? Could Judy make yet another comeback, or had she lost her way for good? Straight ahead, what would the final crushing blow be that would send Judy Garland not over the rainbow, but over the edge?
You don't know what it's like to see somebody you love crumble away in front of your eyes, bit by bit, day by day.
In the early 1960s, Judy Garland, now in her 40s, was the highest paid concert performer in the world. Judy toured the globe from Hong Kong to Sydney to Athens. Audiences couldn't get enough. But what the public didn't know was that behind the curtain, Judy's life was falling apart. Despite all the money she was bringing in, Judy was broke. She was being hounded by the IRS for back taxes. And of course, there was her ongoing battle with prescription drugs. Judy was losing. So how did one of the world's greatest entertainers end up penniless? Many suggest that Judy's agent, David Beagleman, embezzled millions of dollars from Garland.
The money that Judy earned was sometimes picked up in Las Vegas by David Beagleman, and carried out in a satchel. And Judy probably never saw any of it.
Financial insecurity was an ongoing frustration for Judy.
And they had to leave hotels because she didn't have the money to pay. And Liza has described to me how they'd put on all their clothes, everything they owned, one thing on top of the other, and they'd put a coat on top, and they'd go stroll through the lobby and get in a taxi cab and go to another hotel. Never paid the bill.
She called me at the office, and she sounded quite terrible. She said, "Alan, I want to come in and make records." I said, "Fine, Judy, you come on in." She said, "I want $1 million first." And I said, "Judy, I can't do that, but come on in, let's make some records." "No, I want $1 million, Alan. I'm a legend. I'm a legend, and you've got to give it to me."
In 1968, it looked like another comeback was underway when 46-year-old Judy was offered a coveted role in the film The Valley of the Dolls. These are the actual costume tests for the film. Longtime friend John Carlyle.
The character of Neely O'Hara supposedly was Judy Garland, whereas Judy was signed to play the sort of Ethel Merman, older, tougher part. I think she was terrified because she would shut herself in that dressing room and not come out.
You pardon me, but I do get the giggles.
Because of her erratic behavior, Fox executives fired her from the movie after just 1 week.
There were months in the late 60s when she had no money at all. She would stay in other people's apartments, so it was a desperate time.
Having Judy stay over 2 or 3 nights was wonderful. Having her stay over for a few weeks would have killed me.
Judy was not one to be alone for very long. In 1969, she married her 5th husband, discotheque manager Mickey Deans, 20 years her junior.
If you see pictures of her at her wedding to Mickey Deans in London in March of 1969, a thin little thing. And overweight was no longer a problem then. She looked emaciated.
I called her on her 47th birthday. She was all by herself and she was in bed. And I said, "Happy birthday, my love." And she asked me how my cat, Judy, was. I had 2 cats. One was named after Judy. Judy was very sick, my cat. And she said, "Oh, darling, put her up on the bed." And I did. And Judy sang "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" to that cat. And the cat lived longer than Judy.
Judy Garland was found dead of a drug overdose in a London apartment on the morning of June 22, 1969. Despite her many suicide attempts, the coroner called Judy's death unintentional. She was just 47 years old. Judy Garland's funeral was unforgettable.
And the funeral, of course, was very dignified and very beautiful. And then 6 strapping 6-foot men picked up the coffin and held it over their heads and slowly walked out of the funeral parlor. It was the most impressive. Much more than sad, it was impressive.
Even beyond her illustrious accomplishments as an entertainer, Judy Garland's greatest legacy is the way she captured people's hearts. The honesty and vulnerability in her work made people feel as though they were looking into her soul, and they were. Judy will live on forever as Dorothy, a lost little girl trying to find her way home, but Judy Garland never would. That's a sad end for a woman who deserves so much better from life. I'm A.J. Benza. Join me the next time we take a stroll down the flip side of the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
You know, I watch television a lot, and I enjoy it very much. But I always have the weird feeling that the people up there who are singing and smiling can see me actually sitting in my living room. But that's not true, because I can't see anybody. It's not important, though, because I can feel you're there.